For centuries, geography was defined by solid borders and liquid oceans. We mapped the ground and the sea to understand where one nation ended and another began. Today, we have to look upward. The atmosphere itself is an active, fiercely contested domain. Project Monsoon represents a strategic pivot. Climate engineering and weather modification are now integrated into the machinery of statecraft, utilized as operational tools of conflict. Natural hydrological cycles are breaking down under the weight of a warming planet. To secure water, energy, and regional dominance, states are actively attempting to rewrite the weather. The United States military tested the viability of this half a century ago. During the Vietnam War, Operation Popeye marked the first systematic attempt to harness the weather as a tactical weapon. Air Force crews dispersed a chemical agent called silver iodide directly into tropical storm systems. The technical objective was to artificially force continuous heavy rain over the Ho Chi Minh Trail, softening the dirt roads into impassable mud to choke off enemy supply lines. Once classified details of the operation leaked to the public, the ensuing global ethical crisis forced an international response. In 1977, states signed the ENMOD Treaty, explicitly prohibiting the use of environmental modification techniques for hostile purposes. This diagram shows exactly how modern powers bypass that treaty. States construct massive climate infrastructures under the protective banner of civilian drought relief. Because these geoengineering technologies are dual-use, they carry inherent military potential that operates entirely within a regulatory vacuum. Look at the Tibetan Plateau. Known as the Water Tower of Asia, it is currently the site of China's Sky River initiative. Beijing installed over 500 solid fuel-burning chambers across these alpine slopes, designed to pump condensation nuclei into updrafts covering millions of square kilometers. The plateau feeds massive transboundary river systems that sustain billions of people. By forcing rain to fall strictly within its own borders, China can theoretically siphon moisture out of the air before it ever reaches downstream neighbors like Vietnam or India. India's security establishment views these maneuvers as a top-tier threat. In 2024, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh elevated climate change to a matter of national security, signaling that environmental shifts are now inextricably linked to the defense of the state. The Indian armed forces fear highly specific tactical strikes. An adversary could use cloud seeding to artificially induce a blizzard, blocking critical Himalayan logistics passes in the dead of winter. Or they could trigger flash floods to completely wash out border encampments. When one state wields unilateral control over the weather, it creates a permanent security dilemma. Neighboring countries are forced to view any severe drought or sudden flood not as an act of nature, but as an act of aggression. This diagram illustrates a planetary-scale intervention, solar radiation management, or SRM. Instead of manipulating local rain, SRM involves injecting reflective sulfur-based aerosols high into the stratosphere to literally bounce incoming sunlight back into space. It is terrifyingly cheap and highly feasible. A single state could unilaterally cool the entire planet in months, but the atmosphere is fully connected. If a nation deploys a stratospheric shield, resulting shifts could disrupt monsoon cycles, triggering catastrophic agricultural failure across the global south. One region's artificial cooling mechanism becomes another region's killing drought. If a rival state retaliates by releasing warming agents to neutralize the cooling effect, global geoengineering degrades into a volatile, zero-sum atmospheric tug-of-war. Sovereign states are no longer the only actors in the space. Venture-backed startups are increasingly bypassing international law to conduct guerrilla science, unauthorized atmospheric experiments completely free from public oversight. In 2022, a startup called Make Sunsets launched weather balloons filled with sulfur dioxide over Mexico. Operating without community engagement, they sought to generate commercial cooling credits for private investors, openly violating Mexican sovereignty in the process. Relying on either private or state-run cooling deployments introduces a devastating technical trap known as termination shock. This line graph illustrates the danger. Global temperatures are artificially suppressed over time by continuous aerosol layers. If that planetary shield is suddenly halted by war, terrorism, or economic collapse, temperatures violently snap upwards, rebounding several degrees within a decade. Deploying these systems creates a terrifying path dependence. Once we start blocking the sun, we lock all future generations into actively maintaining an artificial sky just to survive. The physical manipulation of our environment is directly compounded by psychological warfare. The reality of weather modification fuels massive domestic conspiracy theories, like the chemtrails myth, pushing extreme paranoia into mainstream politics. Malign state actors actively amplify these conspiracy theories online. They exploit domestic fears to sow political chaos, perfectly masking their own real-world climate interventions in the noise. Meanwhile, the physical costs accumulate silently. Continuous chemical seeding operations release heavy metals like silver iodide, quietly bioaccumulating in the ecosystem and toxifying transboundary water supplies. Without a comprehensive global non-use agreement, the atmosphere will remain a fractured, highly weaponized battlefield. In the 21st century, the accumulation of geopolitical power requires the active dispossession of the climate.